Once upon a time, on a very ordinary day, deep in the center of a very ordinary heart, an extraordinary thing happened. I was just 5 years old that night that my parents left me at home alone with a babysitter. Mrs. Nicholson was her name. She was about this high, about 100 years old, and she smelt of cigarettes. And she came and sat on our floral sofa with her knitting needles, clack, 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 watching the television in between cigarette breaks. Now, on this night, I was my best ever 5-year-old rambunctious self, and I finally won the battle between kids and babysitters. And Mrs. Nicholson gave up entirely on trying to put me to bed. The prize for this great victory was that I got to stay up late and watch late-night television. Whew! I stood just peering over the edge of the sofa, half in and half out of the lounge, watching this amazing film, and I was no longer in the lounge. I was a knight, a prince, galloping in armor across the battlefield to rescue my father, the king. What a great adventure I was part of. I knew I shouldn't be there, though. I knew my parents would be mad at me, and I knew that I was way out of my depth in what I was watching, but I couldn't tear myself away. I wish I had. Because in the next scene, the king died in the prince's arms. And the pain that tore through the prince tore through me, shattering my childhood and introducing me to death, isolation, and aloneness. Bedtimes were never the same. This 5-year-old experience seeded in me my personal quest for safe, meaningful bedtime transitions and inspired me to write a collection of conscious bedtime stories specifically to help parents connect more deeply with their children in the last 20 minutes of the day. As I lay in my bed that night, under the covers, awake for hours, trembling, my sticky thoughts were forming. You guys know sticky thoughts, right? They're the ones that just keep going, like on a broken record over and over again in the background, slowly eating away at your self-esteem and your confidence. You know, who knows the one of oh, I'm doing it wrong, or I'm not good enough, or I don't belong. What I needed that night was a hug. So in case you didn't realize, that's a hug. And the cool thing about hugs, we all know where they're made, right? No, we don't? Backwards, forwards. Breathing in, breathing out. All right. I'm really nervous about which button to press. Not that one. Not that one. That one. Hey, all right. All right, rewind. The cool thing about hugs, right, is that we know they're made in the heart. Of course, in the hug factory, right? You knew that there's a hug factory in the heart. What you might not have known is that deep in the back of your heart, there are baby hugs quietly growing in a forest of trees that are hydroponically drip-fed by stardust, rainbow light, and a basket of warm, fuzzy feelings. Yeah, it's true. And now the thing about hugs, what they really need to watch out for is they've got to make sure that they don't get stuck in the web of sticky thoughts. You know, nobody loves me. I don't belong. I'm doing it wrong. And now the great thing about stories is we can build into a story the solution to the problem. So, on the factory wall, there was a great big sign saying reminders to being a great hug. 1, breathe in love and glow brightly. 2, remember the heart your love is for. And 3, don't pay too much attention to the web of sticky thoughts. So, with the help of illustrators, I create worlds with heroic characters who have courageous, heartfelt victories that can help the readers learn something. On my journey through healing, I started to ask this question: what happens to our painful experience? Where did that experience go when I was little? And it appears that there's a process in play here. That pain leads to a belief system about the world somehow being unsafe. And that belief system then results in a behavioral change that is mostly protective. And so I asked myself, hey, can we interrupt this process? And if so, when? Because as a therapist working with adults, we're starting at the tail end. We're starting with the behavior piece and trying to work our way back to what was the belief that caused it, and perhaps what was the original pain. But a lot of it started before we were 6 years old. And is there a possibility to interrupt this process, perhaps not for us as adults, but for our little ones in their journey, so that they don't have to go so far down the rabbit hole that, well, certainly I had to journey. Now, this is when things get interesting. I started to look at the neuroscience of the brain. Dr. Matthew Walker is the author of a book, Why We Sleep. And in that, he describes that sleep is constantly rebuilding the architecture of our brain. We know that sleep has the role of enhancing and stabilizing our memory. And so as I explored into this world of neuroscience, I found some amazing things that I think I'd like to share with you today. Pioneering edge information about the world of sleep science. Did you know that in your brain there are little brain people? No, really. There's little brain people, right? And if you think about this day that I was hanging out, these little brain people, they were all fine before this experience that came and scared me. But then the big scare came along, and the little brain people, well, they hit the panic button and started digging a tunnel, right? Digging a tunnel straight to the back of my brain just to tell those little brain people one key message. Ah! Okay, you're gonna die. All right, it's not safe, you're not loved, and maybe you don't belong. All right? Now, all of that happened whilst I was awake. And then I went to sleep. And the night shift came in. And the night shift did their job to stabilize and enhance the memories of the day. You're going to die. It's not a great memory, okay? And you're not safe, and you're not loved, and maybe you don't belong. And there it is. Those are the messages that got built into the tunnel that had been dug. So it's no surprise that by the time I woke up in the morning, there's little brain people going, "Whoa! Did it happen? Did it happen? Did it happen? We don't know. Did you die? Are you dead yet?" And of course, in me, my physical body has, I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm waking up scared. Has anybody else ever woken up feeling scared? Right? And there's an interesting thing here further. So 10 years later, 30 years later, 40 years later, this little brain person who's never been to this particular part of the brain, just out for a stroll, right, checking things out, let's see what happens here, and comes across the entrance to this tunnel. And as they step right in, this little brain person and I are predisposed to feel the fear of death and that fear that was part of waking up in the morning. Because of the experience of 5-year-old me and the belief systems that I put on top of that and the behavior changes that I made on top of this. Now the thing is, there's hope. Michael Merzenich is the grandfather of neuroplasticity. And he says that neuroplasticity is a two-way street, that it's as easy to create positive change as it is negative change. So what if sometime maybe after the painful event starts, but before the nighttime crew come in and reinforce the message, perhaps in the last 20 minutes of the day, there's a new experience. An experience that says to the brain, you're safe. You're loved. You belong. And then the little brain people, they work with these new plans and spend all night enhancing those. Arianna Huffington, who's the founder of Huffington Post, has gone on to start a different business called Thrive Global, entirely focused on sleep. Now, her business card says, a great day starts the night before. And I agree with this. In fact, I don't even think the last 20 minutes of today belongs to today. I think it's part of tomorrow. We have a chance every single evening to decide how our brain's going to work for 8 hours. 8 hours. Right? And I don't know if you've ever been to sleep on an argument with a partner and you've thought, well, maybe it'll be gone in the morning. Yeah? And was it? Or did it feel like you spent 8 hours having an argument? Right? So think of this for our children, the little ones. One day of their life is so much more of a percentage for them than it is for us. Right? And if it's an ordinary day, then the chances are that they've had some experience today that was painful, that gave them a little prod that feels like a piece of separation. In other words, the tunnel is already dug. The night crew, they're waiting, they're ready to reinforce this. But what happens next depends on you. You have the power to change this. Your love and connection changes the negative neural pathway formation process and reinforces a positive pathway that can create self-esteem, confidence, and have them waking up feeling safe, loved, and like they belong. Doesn't that sound like a great thing? Now, you might be asking, really, is my love and connection enough? Just love and connection? Well, there is some ways to finesse how we create connection, and I'll talk about that. But yes, the answer is yes, your love and connection is all that's needed, and here's why. Our painful experiences happen when we're awake. That's one point which is fascinating. So, when we go into sleep, there's a transition time, a liminal moment. And your love, that point of pain that happens, it happens in relationship. And so the consequence of the pain is a sense of separation. And if pain always happens in relationship and always has separation, then healing always happens in relationship and always has connection. That's what's needed. Your love and connection. So, what can that look like? Well, breathing is great. Join me for a moment. Breathing in, I breathe for me. I breathe for you. I breathe for us. And I breathe for all that surrounds us. Connection just opens with the sharing of breath. And then we can direct our mind. This is the key, to direct our mind in the last 20 minutes of the day towards what we want our little brain people to be thinking. So that's why we do gratitude practices at the end of the day, so that we can cultivate gratitude for 8 hours. Do a relaxation exercise, intentionally relax the body, so that we can cultivate relaxation. And one of my favorites, checking in, going, what are the 3 feelings I want to wake up with tomorrow? Happiness, confidence, adventure. And then writing that down on a little post-it, tucking it under the pillow, and giving that very clear message to the little brain people. You're never too old to start. Never too old to start. But think of our children. Think of the impact of that interrupting the pain process in their journey on an everyday basis. That they go to sleep in the presence of your love and connection, feeling love and connection. So when you go to sleep tonight, breathe in love and glow brightly. Remember the heart that your love is for. And don't pay too much attention to the web of sticky thoughts. Good night. Sleep tight.